Thank you for joining. We're going to get started with the record. Oh, you got it on? Awesome. Thank you, Stacy. What I'd like to do is, first of all, introduce the Aspire staff who are in the room. So just so that you know kind of who is joining us and who's helping to coordinate this. My name is Nomi Pierce, and I'm an Aspire specialist. My region is down the Willamette Valley, kind of starting at the Linn-Benton counties and all the way through Lane and Douglas and Jackson and Josephine and a little bit of Klamath County and sort of all the way down to the border. I've been in my role just over a year, and so it's really exciting to see the beginning of the new academic year and feel a little bit more substantial in my experience. So I'm really happy you're here today. I'm going to call on people so that we can kind of do this quickly, and if I miss anybody and haven't noticed they're here, please help me, folks. But Stacy, you're helping me. You're my co-driver today. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Stacy. I'm the Aspire Access Specialist for Eastern and Central Oregon.
I'm Rochelle Ferris. I'm actually right outside of Adrian Nelson High School today, visiting there for a fall site visit.
You can come in, you know.
Oh,
You're welcome to come in. Hello.
Anyway, my school areas are Lincoln City down to the California border in Brookings Harbor, Clackamas High School or Clackamas County, and then the Mid-Willamette Valley, Salem, Kaiser, and surrounding areas.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Kurt Reeser. I'm the interim program administrator for the Aspire program. So I get to work with all of the Aspire folks and all the Aspire sites, making sure that things get processed and moving along forward. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Want to make sure that we mention that on December 5th, we're going to have our next Aspire Connections webinar. The topic is FAFSA and ORSA updates, which I know everyone is following very carefully. But also wanted to mention that even before that, we have started a series of webinars on that are available right now. They're covering, especially for those who maybe didn't have an opportunity to see the ORSA and FAFSA webinar, the ORSA and FAFSA session at the conference, at our Aspire conferences. I think it's a really nice opportunity to kind of get connected. There have not been a lot of updates, but there are a few updates. And so it's a nice section that you can kind of really see what's happening right now and to get an opportunity to ask questions as well. Stacy, I was going to ask for you to drop our webinar link there into the chat so people can see that. There are quite a few of them available over the next couple of months, and there you can register on our website in the webinars. So we'll look forward to that. But today we're focusing on OSAC grants and scholarships. We wanted to provide kind of a little bit of an overview of grants and then focus on one of our newer grants that we think is really exciting and we want to make sure coordinators understand really well. And then we're going to look at the scholarship application, which is open. And then we're going to have a specialist give us some application pro tips and also look at some searching options to help with, so you can help students really well. So what I want to do first is just remind ourselves about the grants that we have available and the resources that you have to see those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here. And you should be seeing my, excuse me, my screen, which looks like just the main Oregon studentaid.gov site. Yep, can I get thumbs up from somebody? Okay, thank you. Okay, so our main site, of course, has a lot of information. And what we want to do is just remind you that as a source of information, we encourage you to come back here on a regular basis and just sort of refresh your information. Also, directing students here is a really great idea because it really gives them an sort of a sense of where the information is. We have our grants under a tab, so they're all listed here, so that you can see specific eligibility and that kind of thing for each of them. Just as a reminder, the Oregon Opportunity Grant is a grant that covers a lot of our students statewide at our community colleges and our universities, and they do not have to apply for this. They just need to complete the FAFSA or ORSA and be eligible with their financial need. But you can see, it's got really nice clear tabs so that the students can just kind of check it out and just determine whether or not, for in this case, just to learn more about the grant so that they know what it is. And of course, this grant is exciting because we were able to get some additional monies last year or this year with the legislature. And so this is going to be a robust opportunity for students to access funding for higher education. The next one, of course, Oregon Promise. This is, something that a lot of people are really paying attention to right now in terms of the students are out there up getting their applications in right away. We've got over 2,000 applications already in, which is great. We've tried to provide just real basic information in terms of reminding about the deadlines, who is eligible, so that everything is right here, very accessible. And then further down, a little bit more information about awarding information for students who are already awarded and are getting information now about their grant, and then future information about next year. So one thing that is important about the Oregon Promise Grant, last year, all eligible students who applied for it are able to have funding for this year. We don't know if that's going to be the case next year or not. The student aid index cutoff, that has not been determined yet. So we all would like to think that in the future that's going to we're going to be able to award as many as possible, but we won't know until a little bit further on in the academic year. Other grants, so we're going to talk more about the Oregon Tribal Student Grant soon. Oregon Child Care Grant, again, each of these grants has their own page, really focusing in on the students that might be eligible for this, determining whether or not they need to do anything in addition to the FAFSA, if it's got an application, when the deadlines are, and that kind of thing. So I really encourage you to utilize this site and then also really send your students here. One new grant that we had this year, it's kind of an in transition, is the Oregon Teacher Scholars Grant. So this has been, it's been a grant and it's been a scholarship. So it's important, I want to mention it for a couple reasons. One is it's kind of coming back into our grant portfolio, but currently this year it's still in the scholarships application. But importantly, I think it's good to talk about because students aren't eligible for this until they are just sophomores in college. So they're looking at their junior and senior year. Eligibility is that they need to be a student who is ethnically diverse and a heritage speaker of a language other than English. Sorry, that's and/or in their final 2 years of an education program, so a licensure program. And either studying education, school counseling, social work, or school psychology. So the reason I think it's important to talk about it now is just to really remind students that every year they need to come back to OregonStudentAid.gov and really focus in again on what kinds of grants and or scholarships they might be eligible for, because that is going to change during the time that they're a student. So this is something just to mention to students who maybe have an interest in education or working with students and that kind of thing. But really, it's just my reminder to you to say to them, this is not a one and done deal. You need to keep coming back here. Okay. So I want to just pause there and just see if there are any questions, because I am not following questions at all. Anything briefly at this point? I'm going to stop sharing.
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so now what we want to do, after that quick overview of all the grants, we want to focus in more closely at the Oregon Tribal Student Grant. I'm really pleased to introduce Jacob Logan, who is our tribal student leader Learner Access Analyst, who will provide more information on this grant. And thank you so much for joining us, Jacob.
So the Oregon Tribal Student Grant is a newer grant within OSAC. It became permanent last year. So last year was our pilot program in the 2022-2023 academic year. At the end of June, the Oregon legislature voted to make it permanent and a part of Oregon state law. So this grant is now a regular grant within OSAC's grant portfolio. Our website has a lot of our good information for the Tribal Student Grant. So it'll give a brief overview of what it can cover. The grant is really intended to cover the average cost of attendance after federal and state grants and scholarships. So the Oregon Tribal Student Grant is what's considered last dollar. So all other grants and scholarships have to be accounted for before Oregon Tribal Student Grant is awarded. The deadline for the 2023-2024 academic year is April 5th, 2024. And then the application for the 2024-2025 academic year will open also in April of 2024. So who is eligible? You must be an enrolled member of one of the 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon, which include Burns Paiute, Confederate Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, Confederated Tribes of Umatilla Indian Reservation, Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, the Coquille Indian Tribe, the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians, as well as the Klamath Tribe. So students must become or must be a member of one of these 9 tribes to qualify for the Oregon Tribal Student Grant off of, kind of step 1. Students also must go to an eligible school. So students must go to an eligible school. So that would be an Oregon Community College, public university, or Oregon-based nonprofit colleges and universities. And some of those nonprofit colleges and universities could include schools like Willamette, University of Portland, Pacific University, and some of our other Oregon-based private schools. They have to complete the application for the Oregon Tribal Student Grant each academic year. They must complete a FAFSA or OSA, whatever they are eligible for in those 2 programs. And they must be at least half-time enrolled each term. So that is 6 or more credits each term for them to be eligible for the grant each term of their college career. They need to be working in their first associate's or first bachelor's, first undergraduate and graduate degrees, as well as some professional degrees. So students could transfer from a community college into a university and complete their associates, then go complete their bachelor's, or they can go directly into university and go to complete their bachelor's. And then students can also complete and use this grant to help work towards a master's or professional degree program. So we have students on this grant who are obtaining their JD, so their legal degrees. They're on their way to become lawyers. And we have about 5 students this academic year who are working on their MD, so becoming a doctor of medicine. This grant is pretty far-reaching, and it has a lot of great potential to help our Native communities. We do prioritize undergraduate and master degree students. Currently, we are awarding students at full level, and there is no need to prioritize funding. However, as this grant becomes more popular, we might have to do that as well. So keeping track of the website is going to be the best way to make sure that you're up to date on the information. Again, students will need to complete the FAFSA or ORSA. They need to complete the Oregon Tribal Student Grant. After they complete the Tribal Student Grant application, they are prompted to submit tribal enrollment verification. This is required for both OSAC and our tribes. We want to make sure that students who are applying for these grants are actually one of the 9 tribes. Because again, this is only for the 9 Oregon tribes. If you have students who are Native and an Oregon resident, but may not be an Oregon tribal member, there are about 5 or 6 scholarships that OSAC does help manage that students can also apply for, and I oversee that in a small portfolio of Native American scholarships. As well, there are a lot of resources outside of OSAC for Native students. So if you do have larger populations who may not be an Oregon member, you can certainly reach out to me and I can send out some links and resources for those tribal members in Oregon who is not an Oregon tribal member. Again, the application for the current academic year is April 5th, 2024. And then the 2024-2025 will also open probably sometime in early April as well. How much a student could receive will greatly depend if they're attending a community college, a university, public versus private, what kind of degree they're looking for. It is based off of the average cost of attendance, so about 15 credit hours per term, and it will be reduced by federal and other state gift aid. So when it comes to calculating how much a student can get in the grant, it really, really depends. Student choice and student selections will really, really affect how much money is affected. If students are having problems or needing some additional resources, please don't reach out. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and I can certainly get you linked up with some resources as well. And with that, is there any questions?
It looks like we have one question in the chat, Jacob. COA, including room and board and other expenses?
Yeah, full cost of attendance. So room and board, which is now going to be called like housing and living. So it'll help cover even dorm rooms, off-campus living, tuition and fees, books and supplies, personal and miscellaneous. It'll be up to the full cost of attendance. So if you have a student who wants to go to U of O or OSU and they don't receive any other kind of grant or scholarship, then the Oregon Tribal Student Grant will fully cover their full cost of attendance. No loans will be needed on this program. If you're at a private school or you're in a master's program or professional program, you might still need some other resources, including loans, because the Oregon Tribal Student Grant is capped at the most costly cost of attendance at an Oregon public university for an undergraduate. So the highest cost of an undergraduate degree from an Oregon public school is the cap. And so even if you go to a private school, you can still get quite a bit of money because it'll be up to the full cost of attendance of a public university. And so we now have some students who is a little bit easier to go to Willamette and Linfield because they have typically, anywhere from 30 grand already dedicated in scholarship and grants.
Okay, I'm going to share something regarding the Oregon Promise Grant and the portal in general, because I had an experience with a coordinator just in the last couple of days that surprised me. So one of my coordinators was working with students on the Oregon Promise Grant, and she, as they were completing the grant and they were looking at the transcript section, they were not able to select having my high school registrar upload my transcript for me. It was kind of grayed out, so it wasn't an option. And with a little bit of turnaround and checking with Oregon Promise Grant colleagues here, what was determined is that each year, the access to the portal can be kind of disconnected so that it's protecting student information from last year. And so staff may need to reconnect themselves with the partner portal so that they can become able to upload students' transcripts on their behalf. So that's something I think I would encourage you to just double check, go out to your partner portal, make sure you see that you have full access, maybe have a student do a quick double check for you, and make sure that you can, that they see the option to ask for their registrar to upload. Also, if you have new staff, you would need to address this as well. And you can do that using the partner portal. Oh gosh, hold on. Now I'm going to have to find that. Stacy and I will find that for you. It's the partner portal support, I think, at HEC. But we want to get that specific email address to you so that you can email directly and make sure that you have all of the access that you need in order to support your students. So that was just something that I learned recently, so I wanted to pass that along. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to now move on to scholarships. So the scholarship application is open. It's been open since November 1, and things are going well. We've had a number of successful applicants, which is really exciting. We wanted to give you today a little bit of a peek behind the scenes and some encouragement and advice and pro tips to help you assist students. And so we know that you are doing this hard work out in the field to support students as they're, searching for scholarships and trying to figure out how to make education beyond high school manageable. So we wanted to provide some tools that can help you in that process. So I want to introduce you to Walter Racinos, who is our scholarships processing coordinator. He's here to share some valuable pro tips on the scholarship application. He's also going to show you some things about the searching for scholarships. Walter, thank you for joining us, and please start with an introduction and tell us a little bit about your role and yourself before you start. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much for introducing me, Nomi. My name is Walter Racinos Perez. I've been working with scholarships for almost 2 years now. However, there are 4 other members of my team who are in the portfolio coordinator role. They oversee each of the individual funds, scholarship funds that we administer, and they all have over 20 years of experience with OSAC and financial aid. So definitely in good hands when it comes to the scholarships. As mentioned, I'm going to talk about scholarships a little bit, mainly just kind of some pro tips, just trying to help out some of the things that most students don't really think about when they start searching for scholarships, including just keeping in mind like the eligibility requirements. Most students will just think of maybe 1 or 2 things, but a lot of the things that we want to keep in mind is that there's a broader range of criterias, and I'll definitely go ahead and share my screen. So yeah, basically you would go to our website. You would go here to application, and our scholarship catalog is under the application side of our scholarship tab. You would click there. I have some of this already kind of preloaded because it does take a second just to load up. We have a few methods of searching up scholarships. One method is using the main catalog portion where you can go ahead and type in keywords and things of that nature to go ahead and search up for scholarships. Another way that I kind of personally enjoy is going ahead and clicking on the full catalog. This does take a little longer to go ahead and download because it is the full catalog. However, I find it to be a little easier to navigate by using the Control Find option. If you use Control Find and then start typing in keywords that a student might need or use to go ahead and find a scholarship that they feel most eligible for, that's where they can go ahead and find that. So engineering, for example, it will take you directly to that one, and you can go ahead and actually just have the student write down the number or the name. So when they go back into the application, they're able to go ahead and find that scholarship. Let's see. So that is one of the things. Another one, just some pro tips to keep in mind also is the fact that the scholarship application has a couple deadlines. February 15th is the early bird deadline. And we definitely want students to go ahead and make sure they turn in an error-free application. Some students forget that they'll turn it in very early and forget to go ahead and make sure that things are correct, including their transcript, making sure that they have all those requirements already taken down. So making sure that they go ahead and submit an error-free application. It's one of the pro tips I would definitely want to go ahead and have them check out. Do we have any questions so far with that? So the filter tool has been improved some to a degree on the scholarship catalog. Pretty much you would go ahead and use the search bar to go ahead and just type in keywords. So that is one of the functions that we can use. Again, if a student wants to go ahead and find a nursing program, they would just go ahead and type it in there and they would find something to their degree. However, just keep in mind, all scholarships have their own requirements, and that is something that they always have to keep in mind. Preferences are not as important as our requirements. We definitely want to make sure students are aware that, you know, if they see that it says preference, they don't have to worry as much about it. It is just that the donor wants to preferably see that, but it's not the main requirement. So we do have a large group of scholarships that even go out of state. We have scholarships, as long as they go ahead and search up something for like a Title IV eligible school, they will have that available to them.
Hey, Walter, we have a couple of questions.
Yes.
What is the advantage of early bird?
So the early bird scholarship, the early bird is pretty much a bit of a raffle. We every year select students that turned in their scholarship for a $1,000 award, and they're able to get that by turning in their application early.
Thank you. And the deadline this year is April 1st. Is that different than last year?
Correct. Due to the FAFSA opening up later this year, we did decide to extend the deadline for this year, for the 24-25 academic year, so that they can go ahead and have more time to go ahead and apply.
Great, thanks. And as always, we are always wondering why the catalog is not updated yet. Is there any new updates about how to download the catalog and make it more searchable?
So I believe when it comes to how difficult sometimes it may seem to navigate through the catalog, comes from the fact that when in the application, students will see the recommended catalog just kind of pop up. Recommended doesn't match students. I will let you know that it is just to go ahead and promote scholarships that are most likely eligible for the students. There's no way to match every single student to every single requirement because there are so many. Definitely, we are just trying to get our search tool to go ahead and do the best that it can with the information given. By the time that they get to the second section, which is where they'll begin to add those scholarships. So that's where we would use the catalog, the downloadable one, or our tool to go ahead and try to find those keywords that will help a student find a scholarship that they are most eligible for.
Would you be able to share your screen and show
Sure.
us a couple hot tips about searching in the catalog, and also how to download the catalog to save?
Of course. So again, just by clicking full catalog, it will open up and download the full scholarship catalog to your computer. You can do that in that one function. Again, depending on how you decide, how each student individually, depending on their role and their background. Let's say, for example, we have a first-generation immigrant. So in this case, this scholarship, 774 Black Men Family, will pop up. We have a student that they can go ahead and check to see if they meet the requirements here. Unfortunately, because again, each student and every individual person has their own background and different situation, not every scholarship has specifically one-to-one eligibility for that student. However, because we have over 600 in our catalog, we are very confident in saying that there is at least one or two scholarships for every student that applies.
Great, thank you. Can you go back and show us where the little button is for the full catalog?
Mm-hmm. So definitely right here on this side, if you go ahead and to the right, you'll see the full catalog. If you click on that, it will begin to download the full extensive over 600 different scholarships that we do have.
And how many pages is that download?
So you will see at the very top, 157 pages.
Wow, thank you. Walter, another question. How can the students easily navigate to the link? Is there any other navigation tips and tricks that you have for us other than what you've already shared?
Yeah, no. So it's just going on our website. You would go OregonStudentAid.gov, go to scholarships. They would go to application, click on that. And right in the middle is where we have our scholarship catalog. They would just click there. It will lead them to the catalog. Again, it just takes a moment because it is downloading all that information.
Great. Couple other questions for you, Walter. Can I create a test account? Can I create a test account to see what students see?
Yes, of course. So all students, all college coordinators, anyone can go ahead and make an account. All you would have to do is go to log into student portals. You're literally going to take the student role in this. You would go and hit apply, make a new account. I can show you exactly how that will look like. You would go ahead and hit sign up now instead of return user. For me, I already have a test account. So I'll show you exactly where also you would go ahead and click to make sure that you have. So this is even including Oregon Promise, not even just including scholarships. Basically on the About Me section, there will be a portion where it says application type. And you would just go ahead and click that. So to let us know that it is a test application. Any other questions?
That's wonderful. Thank you. I do have another question. Will students hear back before committing to a school on May 1st?
It's a great question. Actually, students can go ahead and change the school of choice. So the college of choice can be changed at any time during the application season, all the way to awarding. So at any time, if they decide to change schools, they would just go ahead and change what school they're going to attend. It will send a notification to our portfolio coordinators who are in charge of the scholarships if they are awarded, to let them know, hey, the student changed schools, just to make sure that the eligibility requirements are still there.
Good. Thank you so much, Walter. It looks like I do have one final question.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Not sure if we are able to answer this at this time or not, but it says, how common is it for scholarship donors to require the high schools to select the winners? Last spring, I tried forming scholarship committees, but it's really hard to get staff to participate. Any tips on how to manage this better? What do other schools do?
I would definitely have to reach out to whoever the chair of the committee for that school is. Like I said, we do have portfolio coordinators who are in charge of all the individual scholarship funds that we administer, including any that are for specific schools. You would definitely want to reach out to us so we can go ahead and work with the chair of that committee so that we can go ahead and help with making sure that there is a lot of communication between the committee and us as far as what you guys are trying to accomplish.
Thank you, Walter. And for those who want to see Walter's email address, you can see it in the chat. I did post it. It's available for you to copy and paste, so you know how to reach Walter.
Yes, please. And if there's any questions or any concerns with students and their application, please feel free to reach out. We are definitely here to help out.
Looks like one final question slipped in for you, Walter. It says, are the scholarships listed only available through OSAC? If a student saw one they think they may qualify for, can they apply directly on their website?
No, unfortunately, all the scholarships that we administer ourselves are directly through our own application. There are private scholarships outside of our application, including institutional scholarships that they can find at the schools that they're looking for.
Great. All right, no further questions at this time, Walter. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Walter. So really now is just kind of like an open question. I'm seeing some, some concerns and questions about, the difficulty and for some in finding sort of like the needle in the haystack and that kind of thing. We do recognize this in terms of the scholarship searching. I think one of the best tools is though that the downloading as a PDF and then being able to search specific terms, but also the terms you have to be really creative. So instead of just searching music and then nothing comes up, then you need to try something, sort of maybe it's musical, or maybe it's band, or maybe it's, so you have to kind of do a lot of different searches. But once you begin to go through them in your PDF, you can begin to sort of eliminate them. Maybe it's you found music, but now the thing that you see is, oh, they have to be a grants pass high school graduate. Well, that's not me, right? So those kinds of things, and you can just kind of use the tools in the PDF and just put a slash across it so that you never go back to the same ones. You just kind of keep moving on. I spoke with a family last night who is sort of beginning to look at this exact thing, and they talked about the fact that they will probably, the three of them will kind of divide up the pages and kind of look through them separately. So they'll kind of split it up so that one person doesn't have to go through all of them, which I thought was a great technique. I also feel like this is a really interesting opportunity for families to really talk to each other about where family members have worked in the past and what bank they use, and did they have somebody who was spent time in a prisoner of war camp during World War II? There are so many different kinds of scholarships, and I think a lot of times students are just like, I don't know if that's true for me. And so making sure that we're encouraging really good conversations between students, if they are able to do that with their family, I think might open up some doors that might be a little bit unusual. Because there are so many unique scholarships out there. So further questions. I also wanted to drop in that the partner portal support email, so that if you do have issues and you need to get your double check that you have access to being able to upload students transcripts. I'm going to send that in there. I want to make sure that you have access to that. But we've got some time for final questions regarding scholarships, grants, big picture, focusing on the small things. What kinds of questions do you have?
Looks like we have one question from Lisa. Will the Oregon CIS activity chart transfer with this app?
I can go ahead and answer that one. Unfortunately, for this application, that functionality was not transferred over from prior year application years, so they will have to manually enter it.
You can also, of course, ask questions verbally. You don't only just have to use the chat, just if that is more comfortable for anybody.
I have a question.
Great.
How many, several of them do not have any amounts on them. And I think sometimes that's a little discouraging for students. They don't know the work, the effort they're going to need to put in there for whatever amount. Is there a way to maybe have more opportunity to see what they were going to get for the scholarship? Does that make sense?
Yeah, understood. Unfortunately, because of how scholarships works and they all each have private donors, we aren't 100% sure what each amount for each year is going to be. One year they could offer 500, one year they might offer 1,000. So that is just something to keep in mind. However, that's why we do ask students to add multiple scholarships to their application rather than just one or two. Again, we do have a catalog of over 600. And again, just with the varying different requirements that we have, it may seem daunting to students when they're looking at our application. However, again, it's just really like Nomi said, about going into a student's background and kind of trying to see what about themselves might qualify for one of the scholarships that we offer. Again, there's some very obscure ones that we do offer, and it's sometimes just about clicking maybe one or two words that might pop it up, or going through the scholarship catalog individually. There is a long time between November 1st and April 1st, so there is time.
So I have a question. Is there a
Sure.
possibility to do this with the catalogs to maybe have it in sections? Here's the sections that are only specific to high schools, like each individual high school. This section here. This section is for engineering, or just something that at least categorizes it a little bit more than just 600.
That is something that we have attempted to do. However, the reason that is not done is because one requirement on one scholarship might throw it into several different categories that you might think this is for undergrads, this is for graduates, but then technically it can also fit in another category.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why we can't just group them up so well.
Fair enough.
You can always put them in multiple categories.
Correct.
But the question I do have is, there are a lot of scholarships out there and a lot of scholarship websites that students are applying to. If they were to have ample time, they would typically apply to every single scholarship that is out there, but that is not the case. Students will go through and prioritize certain things which are local, or certain things that have big response, and the effort that they put into each scholarship is directly proportional to how much it's going to pay out to them. And so it would be really helpful. Yes, you don't have but if you can even put a note of last year it awarded this much, this year it might be different, would be very helpful and appreciated.
Yes, that is a recommendation we could take as feedback. Definitely something to go ahead and note down for our team to go ahead and look into. I know there probably is a good reason why that isn't done necessarily, but I would have to reach back to my portfolio team to go ahead and see why that is.
This would be the only scholarship website that doesn't list the scholarship amount on it. So that begs the question why you're so unique when every other scholarship lists the amount that they will be awarding.
Understood. Definitely, because we do work, we are a state entity that works with so many different private donors that we can't just broad range throw out all the amounts if maybe one may not be comfortable with it. Any other questions?
So, I have a comment on that. So, because I used to be a Aspire coordinator, and I retired, but and I volunteer now. But a long time ago, they didn't say the names, but they gave a list of the previous what the amounts were, and we could get that on the website as a coordinator. And then, I could see, Hood River had, 20 at $2,000 from one particular donor. Well, that was great. It was good information for me to push to really say, hey, kids, you all have to do this one. Because you also don't tell us. I mean, when you had the Ford, we knew in May who got what. But you don't have that anymore. And that's pretty much the only one that we could find out before May 1st or right around, after May 1st. But it was, the kids don't see, they see here in the summer. And then, the next year's kids are like, well, I don't really want to do that. I don't know who wins. But if we could just have some information and data on that, I think it would really help.
Yeah, definitely understand that feedback. I definitely will reach out to my portfolio coordinators to see if that would even be a possibility again. There are certain reasons why some of this information isn't publicized, but definitely something to go ahead and look into once again, and we will definitely reach back out.
Walter, I do have another question.
Sure.
It's from Shayla. She says, I'm new to this position and curious how FAFSA being delayed affects the scholarships. Does it? Will it help speed up any process next year once FAFSA is more established in its new format?
So it won't necessarily affect them too much. It's more like every other, like our grants, our scholarships. As the earlier they can turn in their FAFSA, the better. However, that is the reason why we pushed the deadline from March 1st to April 1st to give that ample time for any students who are looking for those financial need scholarships.
And I would add, Shayla, I'm not sure this is your part of your question, but this is the only year that FAFSA is going to come out in December. Next year is supposed to be back to its regular timing, which I'm sure means that our application deadline will be back to its regular timing. So the format will be new, but I believe that the timing will be sort of back to what we have expected in the past and what all of our deadlines have been set on previously.
Correct.
A last question we have here is from Carrie. She asks, are students notified if they don't receive a scholarship they applied for?
Yeah, yes. So all students will be notified if they're awarded via email. If they are not awarded, they will see that in their student portal dashboard towards the bottom on each of the scholarship cards individually. It will either say awarded or that it was given to other applicants.
And Walter, am I right in thinking, I've heard this a couple times in different meetings, that we do have cases where students have been awarded scholarships, but because they did not respond to an email and accept the award in a timely way, the award may be moved on to another applicant at some point. And so the urgency in students keeping up on their email and that kind of thing is obvious in that case. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, we do our utmost to go ahead and communicate with the student whenever they are awarded, definitely sending them emails, notifications through the student portal, as well as phone calls and even physical mail will go to their address to make sure that we can communicate with the student that was awarded.
And check their email, right?
Correct.
I see no further questions at this time.
Okay, well, that really concludes our webinar for today. We really are grateful that you came. We've got a very brief, like 3-question survey to give us feedback. I'm going to ask Stacy to put that into the chat. One of the questions is, what is your role, basically? And so it could really help us understand how the webinars are working for you in real time. So we would be really grateful if you would just briefly take a moment and fill that out for us. Please reach out to your Aspire specialist for support that you need. Thanks so much to Jacob and to Walter for joining us and sharing this information. We really appreciate your time and your expertise today. And thank you for joining us. We wish you a really great rest of your day and all the best with helping support students through grants and scholarships applications. Thanks. Bye.